I love October, especially after a very, very, very hot June and July, because now I not only have project ideas I want to do around the house, the weather is perfect for it. Would you agree, Donnie?
Yeah, we still have a couple of warm days, but they got pumpkin spice and Oktoberfest, so that kind of remedies the hot days.
Yeah, it just feels good. You get inspired because when it's hot, you can sit inside and go, I really should fix that, or I really should make a fire pit or work on a deck or whatever. And then you walk out and go, oh Lord, it's just too hot. But this time of year, you actually want to put those plans into action. You've been busy doing any projects like that?
Oh yeah, we were very fortunate to find a sweet spot in our workload because we closed about 5 projects in 4 weeks, and so I found myself with one little remodel going on. It was insurance job that they had a pipe burst in, bottom most floor of a split level house, and we went in there and turned that thing from the 70s to 2025, and just understanding where the load bearing walls were, we were able to blow out some walls here and there. The homeowners are a realtor, and the husband is actually he makes cornhole bags, and he quit his full time job. He started as a side hustle, but really neat guy, and started this cornhole bag business. And he actually goes to the big ESPN tournaments when they host those, and he makes a great living. I see his orders and everything, but um, the guy is really making it happen, and he's able to spend a lot of time with his family. A lot of local people listening here for Eastern Alamance football program. They asked me to build a media deck for two stations that actually host our radio show, WBAG and the Maverick.
Mhm.
And basically, they have this tower for all the video folks, but they kind of push the radio folks out, and they don't have the room for it. So they knew they didn't need the vantage point of a second story window, and we built a tower off to the side of the bleachers, and I knew there'd be a lot of eyes on it. So we did so many cool things. Like I bought something called a camo deck screw jig where we used 2x6s, true 2x6 wood as the floor instead of the 5/4 deck boards.
Mhm.
2x6s are about the same price as the 5/4. So I thought, why not get the extra half inch? And this deck jig fits over the board, and you're able to screw the floorboards or the deck boards into the joist from the sides. So it goes in at an angle, and you have no face screws. So we did that along with the standing seam, which is a concealed fastener, metal on the roof. And we just tried to jazz it up every chance we got, along with the black cable rails. And I don't want to overstep because I know you're in building sales, but the cable rails are what seems to be the hot thing these days. And you can watch a few YouTube videos and figure out how to put it together yourself instead of buying a kit. The kits range anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000, and I think I had less than $400 buying it piece by piece on Amazon. You just have to know how to put it together. But yeah, really excited for WBAG and the Maverick to see this thing. I think this Friday will be the first game where they'll actually get to use it. So we're pumped.
Yeah, and look, we sell the wire rail kits and can get those for customers. And you're right, they're trendy mainly in more of a commercial or an application like you're talking about. I still think for residential, the standard railing is the way to go. But yeah, I don't have any problem with you doing that. Didn't hurt my feelings.
Well, I say that because I didn't buy it from a building supply. And, the 2x2 pickets, balusters, whatever you call them,
Hmm.
they're guaranteed to warp. They're going to twist, they're going to bow, and I'm just not a fan. Anything that's going to be exposed to the weather, especially if you have a southern exposure for your deck, that sun's just going to eat that thing alive, and you're going to have to eventually replace it. And these are stainless steel. They have black and they have the silver color. So we did black on this one because it goes more with the team colors. But I just think the wire rails, kind of mixes a little industrial with residential, and it's a good look, man.
Now, I'm going to say this, there's a cool wire rail system where after you get the post in place, you literally are pulling a level or a lever, not a level, a lever, and it automatically pulls them to tension and you lock them in and you're done. It's no longer stringing it through, trying to use tensioners and trying to get it right. And it's super even. Every single rail section is tied together and it
Yeah.
looks great. So again, I'm not against it for people who want it. I don't like it residentially, as in for you're using 2x2s. Even if they're treated, you're right. Eventually, it's wood, it's lumber. PVC is fine. PVC, a lot of it has the metal insert, so it's very
Mhm.
sturdy. It'll last. It's easy to replace or update if you need to. Lots of options, but that's the beauty of having options. Whatever works for you and your house or what you want to do, you can do it.
Yep, I agree all the way around. I did not mention PVC. Sorry, guys. I am a fan of the PVC version because it's just a pressure washing thing for maintenance.
Yeah.
And of course, they have the wrought iron version, but everything with wrought iron has to be powder coated, and
Hmm.
the powder coating process is expensive, and it still has to be touched up at the joints every so often. But one thing, and I didn't even mean to get into this, but since we're on it, handrails, basically aluminum handrails kits. They sell them in 6 and 8 foot sections at the big
Hmm.
box stores, and I know you guys can get those as well. I put those on several houses, and they seem to be a big hit too because they give the wrought iron appearance, but they're less than half the cost. They're really competitively priced. I want to say each section is less than $200. So if you look around your deck and pull a tape measure, that's pretty easy math to see what you can upgrade your rails for. And aluminum is what they use at the beach because it will not rust. And so
Yeah.
it's very sturdy. I think that they're strong and, very, very much maintenance free. So I'm a fan of that as well.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Again, lots of options. And when you know what it's going to be used for, what you would like, if you're not worried about aesthetics, or you might be, I still like a wood one. I think it looks great. Nothing against PVC, but it looks like PVC, if you know what I mean. So there's
Now,
that
me,
trade-off. Yeah,
yeah.
know what I mean? Um, and for people who aren't familiar with the show, they're probably like, what am I tuning into? And it's engaging. This is the Carolina Contractor Show. And to sum it up, we talk about your house. And obviously, with this, we're talking about your house or even commercial or unique ways you can build a deck and what materials you use. For me, my name's Eric Smith, and I sell wood and lumber and stuff. And Donnie Blanchard across from me is a general contractor, and he builds things with wood and puts PVC and railing systems and houses together from the ground up. And what we do every week is we just talk about your house DIY projects. And we weren't even planning on talking about railing. It just popped up because there's really no um, super strict schedule of things we have to talk about. But we just, hey, what pops in your mind? And I do want to thank those stations. That's a cool thing you did for me because TV people are just snobs. And me being former 30 years in radio, well, actually still doing radio, thanks to the Maverick and WBAG for keeping radio alive and doing stuff like that. And kudos to you for helping them out.
Oh yeah, those are my guys, and Joe Gray does a great job at WBAG, and Chuck Marsh got the Maverick off the ground 4 or 5, maybe longer than that, 4 or 5 years ago, I want to say, and he's just done a fantastic job. They host concerts, and you would be amazed at just how many people still listen to the radio. But speaking of that, something popped into my head when you said that.
Mm-hmm.
WBAG, the BAG stands for Burlington and Graham, and they've been around, they're as old as my grandparents with the radio station. But what the heck is the W? Do you know that since you're a radio guy?
Oh, well, aside from one station, KDKA in Pittsburgh, the W signifies that the station is east of the Mississippi, and stations with K, like in LA, I used to do stuff for stations there, KLOS. The K signifies it's west of the Mississippi. It was like 100 years ago in the 20s, they made that official. What always got me was, why would you say stations that are east of the Mississippi will get the W prefix designation? Why not an E like east?
Yeah.
And then obviously, where did they come up with the K for the west of the Mississippi stations? I don't know. I've never really looked that far into it. But basically, aside from KDKA in Pittsburgh, stations on the east are W's, stations on the west of the Mississippi are a K.
That's insane. I bet there's a good answer for that. And radio used to be so much more popular when that was all established, but I might dig into that and see if I can come up with something for next week.
Maybe I should, since I did radio for so long.
There you go.
Maybe that's saying more about me. I mean, I have an FCC license to be a radio operator, and I can't even remember why they did that.
Everybody still loves you, E.
Oh, that's cute. We'll hug it out later. So today's episode, though, it's funny we talked about rail systems for your house and stuff like that. Today, what we're going to talk about is if you're a homeowner, you're gonna dig this show because we're going to talk about some myths of owning a home, mainly in North Carolina, because there are a few unique things that are in this state that affect your home and owning it, and people don't know. And the one of them I'm going to get to at the end of the show, I think is going to surprise maybe you, Donnie, when I looked at some percentages. But whether you're a new homeowner, if you moved here to North Carolina and this is your second or third home you've bought, there are a couple things you need to know about. One of them, we've been very lucky with hurricane season this year. Last year, this time, the mountains were recovering and, flooding. It's a big deal. But a lot of people think, I don't need flood insurance because I'm not on the coast. And ready for this stat?
Lay it on me.
40% of homes in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I was born, salute, 40% of homes in Raleigh are in a flood zone.
I had no idea about that.
Yeah, you wouldn't think it'd be that thing, but it's 1.2 million properties in North Carolina are in a flood zone. I don't know what percentage are covered, but we kind of think the beach is somewhere you need to have it when you don't. And Hurricane Helene last year showed that you can be on top of a mountain basically and have a flood. And last year, Helene being the main flashpoint of this, $2.5 billion in damages across the state due to flooding. So the best thing, I guess, would contact your insurance agent. Would you think would have that information, know if you should get it or if you're in a flood zone?
Oh yeah, no, they can get that. They can put their finger right on that info, and that's their due diligence. That's their job when they take your policy out, is to know if you're in a floodplain, because, of course, they don't want to get burned and miss that as an agent. But yeah, that's something that a lot of homeowners are underinsured because they don't know they don't know to ask for. They don't know to ask the right questions. And I want to say the maximum amount of coverage for a flood policy is $250,000. I don't know where they arrived at that figure, but I guess they think that, where they stop, homeowners insurance will kick in after that. And so I think that they are basing that off of just building the first floor of your house, or rebuilding, the bottom 4 feet of your house after a flood.
Yeah, because I guess, and maybe better, that's people might think that's pretty expensive for just the bottom section. But if you have a tree go through your roof on your second floor, you don't have to worry about what's below it. You're repairing your roof and any damage to the structure on the second floor. But if the first floor has a lot of damage, fixing it is also going to have implications on what's above it.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir. And I don't know that I've seen a flood claim where an engineer didn't have to get involved, because, it's literally shakes your foundation, not shakes it, but, it compromises it for sure. And I want to say that when I was in Louisiana, so I worked, the very, very first hurricane I worked as an insurance adjuster was Katrina. And that was baptism by fire, if there ever was a thing. And basically what we went in and did is we had to measure up to the outlets, which is 18 inches. So if the water got above the outlets, it was another price code. So if the 4-foot break for the drywall was another price code, and there were several houses that got more than that because everything on the dam side of Lake Pontchartrain just really caught it bad. But yeah, they have coverage in place for it, but you got to ask the right questions to make sure you got it if you need it. And those poor people in the mountains, I don't think, even if I lived there as a former insurance adjuster, I wouldn't have thought to ask for that. But everybody up there, or 90% of those people, got burned.
It's crazy. And that's why knowing what your policy covers, and every year talking to your insurance agent, or even scheduling a one-on-one to let them go over the policy, will find all sorts of stuff you may be covered for, may not be covered for, or even over or under covered, because being undercovered can be just as bad.
Yep. Totally. Not carrying enough coverage will burn you as well.
All right. So speaking of insurance and knowing your history, Donnie, in it, homeowners insurance in North Carolina covers termite damage. And a lot of people didn't realize that. And the reason they didn't realize it is because that's not even true. Your homeowner's insurance doesn't necessarily include pest problems, including termites, and you can get a rider for that.
Yep, for sure. But you got to ask the right questions, and termite damage is something that nobody thinks about until it happens to you.
So my pest company here in Wilson County, and they're all through the state, mine is, they'll offer termite inspection. And basically what they do is, if you don't have the coverage, they come in, they go through your house, and they determine, in most cases, you don't have any damage. They might have to do a couple drills and some masonry to put in some repellent or whatever it is, the process they use. And then you get an insurance policy. And then once a year, they come in and they inspect your house again, go underneath it and wherever they need to go. And that might just be $75 to $100. And you now have an insurance policy on your house that guarantees no termites. And if there is, there will be a monetary amount listed. But those guys know if they go in and they don't see any damage and they can do proactive things, they're so confident that termites won't come in if they're checking it every year that they can hand out these policies for pennies on the dollar. So that's like the easy way to get some insurance on your house for termites.
Oh, for sure. And I do recommend that if you have an older home and it's low to the ground, those are way more prone to termite damage than something new that's jacked up in the air a little bit. And the way it works in my world from an inspection standpoint is that when we build a new home, most municipalities require us to show a certificate of a termite treatment at some point,
Hmm.
where they not fail, but they don't want to keep up with it. You're the homeowner; it's your responsibility. That they don't require you to show a maintenance plan or anything like that. And I'm guilty as charged because I don't have a maintenance plan on my personal house, but I'm also pretty far up in the air. I know what to look for, and I don't think that my house is very prone to termites, but when I mentioned a second ago that houses that are lower to the ground are definitely something to keep an eye out for. Slabs, that's the 9 out of 10 times that I've seen termite damage. It's always been in a slab house because you've got the concrete slab right there at ground level. You've got the bottom plate just a few inches above that, and I'll get into that in a second because that bottom plate is required to be treated wood. Anything in contact with the ground or any kind of concrete is required to be treated, but most of those are where I've seen the termite damage. A lot of older homes that had the carport closed in, so you had this old carport on a ranch style house, and someone closed it in and made a recessed living room out of it. Those are very much prone because you've got everything old, and they probably had no termite treatment when the house was built. And a lot of times those folks look at it like, well, they'll just slap a regular 2x4 down for your bottom plate instead of a piece of treated wood or any kind of seal in there, and termite damage is almost a guarantee. Treated wood is not completely termite deterrent. They will eat old treated wood because that chemical treatment that they put on there will eventually dissipate, and it goes away as time goes on. And I'm not going to say that it doesn't work because as long as it's not exposed to water, it's really not a problem. But they seem to avoid treated wood, especially for the first 10, 15 years or so. And but that's a pretty big misconception is they won't eat treated wood. And I'm thinking, why would they? Because if they've got anything anywhere close by that's not, why would you eat the chemicals? But termites are crazy. Yeah, and just to give a quick rundown, not to be long-winded, but earlier you mentioned not carrying enough coverage burns people.
Mhm.
If you do have homeowners insurance and don't know the right questions to ask, I think the most important one is, do I carry enough coverage? And to make a reference to Hurricane Katrina down in New Orleans, what happened was people had the same insurance agent for 20 years, 30 years, and the insurance agents were comfortable. They didn't check their people to make sure they were up in their policy. So as the value of your house goes up, you're required to up your insurance coverage to meet that amount.
Mhm.
And their threshold is 80% of the value of the house. So we had to do what was called an insured-to-value report, meaning if your house was $1 million home, you had to carry at least $800,000 worth of coverage. And what that adds up to is if you have an insurance claim and it's a total loss or what have you, you have replacement cost coverage. And anybody who's had a claim knows that they keep a little bit of the money until you complete the work, and then they pay you the full value. So they'll depreciate whatever was damaged, whether it be your roof, your siding, your windows, whatever. And they may give you 60% up front, and they hold 40% on the back end until you or I, as a contractor, shows proof or pictures that we actually went through with the replacement. So with replacement cost coverage, you get that money back. If you are not insured to value and you don't carry at least 80%, they give you what's called ACV, actual cash value. So that extra 40% that they withheld, they keep instead of giving it back to you. And when I say there were people headhunting agents in New Orleans, I mean, that was a real thing. There were some gangsters down there and they were going to go get their guy, but insurance agents were literally fleeing town because they had underinsured people by the hundreds out there getting shorted $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a piece.
Absolutely crazy. And if you want to, you can build your house completely out of teak wood because I think teak, even though it would cost you $10 million, teak wood is pretty much the number one termite proof wood, or just build it completely out of concrete.
There you
But
go.
I don't know if you want to live in a pillbox. Hey, we've talked about this before, Donnie. I'm not a big fan of messing with too much electricity. I've changed out light switches before, and I've hooked up a ceiling fan. But in North Carolina, the good news is you can do it yourself on even major electrical work in your own home, and you don't need a permit. Now, if you believe that, you could be facing fines as much as $500 a day because you can work on your own home and you can do electrical work, but you still have to pull that permit for anything above outlets. And a lot of people don't realize that. There's big fines if they find out. But the reason is great because if Billy Joe Jim Bob, who might be a fine person when it comes to doing electrical work in your house, but if he's not pulling permits and he doesn't know his stuff, you've got a house that you're reselling that you can't document electrical work was done correctly or with permit, that can help or hinder you from being able to sell it. And also, bad wiring accounts for 20% of all house fires in North Carolina. So if you don't know what you're doing, don't do it. Get a pro. If you are a pro, you probably already know you got to pull permits if you're going to do some major electrical work.
Amen. And with outlets, I agree with you wholeheartedly there. You know, things like light fixtures and ceiling fans, if you're pretty darn handy, then, you know, the rule is that fixture is dead at the switch. So if it's turned off at the wall switch, then have at it. You don't have to flip a breaker or anything, but not knowing how outlets and things like that are GFIs are tied together, and then you really have to play the breaker game. And I think we posted something on our Instagram that will actually, you plug this little tool into the outlet that you'd like to change out, and then you go down to the panel and it will identify the breaker that's associated with that run of outlets. And so it makes it a little bit easier, but I just say I agree with you and call an electrician.
And you've got the little it's like a sniffer, but it's for electricity, and you can hold it over a switch and it'll do a light. I learned, I think nobody got hurt, but I learned we have a 3-light switch at our front door. It does the outdoor lights, one inside, above, and stairs, and found out they're on 2 different circuits because I turned off the circuit that was labeled for it and just took my sniffer there and put it up there, and it lit up. And I'm like, that's impossible. No, whoever wired it up must have changed it in the past and has 2 independent circuits running to 1 light switch. So if you thought you turned it off because the light above you went off, no, it's still, one of those switches was still hot. But as you said, it's a light switch, turn it off. There ain't no juice coming to it. But I don't like messing with electricity.
Nah, stay away.
Not my thing. All right, Donnie learned something today, and that was that I don't live in an HOA. Donnie lives out in the sticks. I live in the city of Wilson. I'm not in an HOA, and if I ever was buying a house and they said, here's this new house, it's for sale, you can look at this, it's in an HOA, I'd go, whoa, I'm sorry, did you say HOA? Because I'm already out.
I'm out.
I have no desire. I get it. Donnie gets it. We understand the point of HOAs. I kind of look at them as like an upper middle class prison, and everybody's going to be the same and act the same. And then you're going to have some Karen or male Karen come around and say, you didn't move your trash cans correctly, or you have your kids' bicycles in the driveway at a 45-degree angle. Or so, fine. Say you do like that. I understand it. You come to North Carolina or you move into an HOA, buy your house, and you think, well, I got to cut my grass and keep my garage door shut, keep the bushes trimmed. I get it. But the backyard is mine, and I'm going to paint this corner wall over here by the porch fire engine red, and I'm putting up that silver stripper or silhouette on the, whatever you want to do. And people don't know in North Carolina, there's a Planned Community Act that lets HOAs in 25% of new developments call the shots on fences, whether or not you can have a pool, paint colors. You get that Leonard shed and they bring it in. Your HOA can say, you didn't get permission for that. Well, it can't be seen from the street. Don't matter. We call the shots. It's in your HOA agreement. And when breaking the rules, you can get daily liens by the HOA for like $100. And if you want to file an appeal, you got to pay for that. And I mentioned the shed because some guy in Pinehurst put in a shed, $5,000 lawsuit against him filed by his HOA.
Wow. Yeah, I don't agree with the homeowner association thing, and I don't know. I guess you know what you're signing up for when you move in, and like you mentioned, some people need an HOA, or they would have cars and boats parked in the front yard, and I get it. And so you gotta account for the people who would bend the rules to the tune of something bad. But at the same time, not for me. And if I were buying a house, unless I just really love the area, that HOA would run me off.
Yeah, not my thing. Now you have a basement. I mean, you've modded yours. Yours is not a crawl space. You have a basement.
Hmm.
Uh, you got waterproofing on it, and a lot of times when you're doing a foundation, I know your dad really knows about this stuff. You put in foundation waterproofing on the outside and things like that. And a lot of people think in North Carolina that's enough. It's going to last forever. You don't have to worry about that again. And you have experience with that, Donnie.
Oh yeah. The waterproofing, I don't know that it has a shelf life or you have to update it, because how hard would that be? But I will say that the waterproofing systems come with a guarantee, and it's good to always use a reputable company. In my experience, we do a combination of precast walls, poured walls. I'm not a fan of a cinder block basement walls because the options are just so much better. But I'll start with the precast, which people often know as Superior walls. Though the Ideal Walls is the only other company in our area that does that, but that's 5,000 psi concrete, which is bridge concrete, and they claim that you don't even have to put a waterproofing agent on it, that it's going to be sealed, and they're banking on that because the base is basically anywhere from 8 to 10 inches of gravel, number 67 clean stone, and it has a series of corrugated pipe running through that and then around the perimeter. So
Hmm.
their reasoning is that if any water gets down to the vulnerable point at the bottom of the basement where it meets the slab, then it's going to hit that gravel and those openings that the corrugated pipes make and
Yep.
make its way out. Well, I've never had a basement leak. I mean, it works exactly like it's supposed to. The other version with the poured concrete walls, of course, they bring in forms. They pour has a footing with the rebar, and they tie all that into the poured walls, and that absolutely has to have that because you have joints and vulnerable places
Yeah.
between the concrete. But I said all that to say that I've never seen a basement leak problem that wasn't associated with from bad drainage up top. And so 9 times out of 10, if you've got a basement leak, it's because you've got a downspout from your gutter system that channels a heavy volume of water right in that one area. So, go outside and see what's dumping the water right there. It's not like it's going to be some gradual thing unless you have a grading problem. And that's the other culprit, is that you don't have positive drain all the way around your house. I think the building code is 10 foot of positive drain all the way around all four sides of your house or whatever you have. And I think that, the basement leak problem or even the basement potentially leaking goes away because that water's got to come from up top, obviously. And, just not having your downspouts routed underground in the proper location, or maybe you have a downspout drain that's been crushed in the yard
Hmm.
and it's bubbling back. But we've said this on the show several times. It's not common to go outside and look around your house while it's raining,
No.
but you'll be amazed at what you find if you do. So throw a raincoat on, get your umbrella, go outside when it's raining in the daylight, and just make sure all your downspouts are draining the right way. More than anything, make sure that you have the proper drainage around the perimeter, because those two things are 95% of the culprit when you have a leak.
And don't go out in that storm if there's lightning and you're holding an umbrella. That's just
Good
a
point.
safety tip. We got a couple more minutes left in this episode of the Carolina Contractor Show. I want to try to get to both of them, Donnie, real quick.
Let's
I
go.
don't have septic. A lot of people don't understand with septic, you're going to want to have an inspection done on this. And there's an issue not only with septics. The inspection is not to check for, say, leaks, but to make sure you avoid a backup, because those are common and can be very, very expensive. And I didn't know, but we were talking insurance for flooding. You can get insurance for your septic tank.
Yeah, well, basically it's a sewer backup, and so that
Okay.
applies to city sewer or a septic tank, but that's not standard coverage. And another, to dial back to the beginning of the show, that's the right question to ask. Make sure you talk to your agent, and if you have a house with average size family, it's 2 adults, 2 kids, boy, girl. So 2 guys, 2 gals in the house. Maybe the rule of thumb applies to you, and you only pump your septic tank every 4 to 5 years. But let me tell you, you got a house full of women, and they're flushing toilet paper and feminine products and all the things down, and something like COVID happens, or you're shut in your house or anything like that. Like, man, I'm telling you, the heck with the rule of thumb. Get that baby pumped about every 2 years at a minimum, and get your kids out of the house, dial it back to every 5 years. But if you got a lot of women in the house, sorry gals, but they generate a whole lot of waste. And I don't. Maybe it's just the girls around me or the women that I had with my girls use a lot of toilet paper, but I see in general, a lot of women in the house. You got 4 girls, and then I would definitely have that septic maintenance maintained a lot more regularly than 5 years.
Well, I'm just going to say I have 3 women in my life, and they're angels and cause no problems.
Mm.
And for you to say something like that is shocking, and I'm a little stunned, and it'll probably harm our relationship.
I'm sorry if I offended you, Eric.
No, I'm just seeing. Okay, they're gone now.
Okay.
But but yeah, that's a good point. Take care of it, because the not taking care of it is very, very
Yeah.
expensive.
The whole point was I got carried away, didn't I?
Yeah, it's okay.
Sewer backup is an endorsement that you have to add to your policy. So ask your agent and see if you have that or if you need to add it.
All right. Speaking of insurance, I'm surprised number of people that don't know this. This isn't necessarily a North Carolina thing. It's very popular now. Property taxes. Should we get rid of them? And some states are doing it. Governor DeSantis in Florida is talking about it, and some other states. Property taxes stay the same after you buy, and people don't understand. I was surprised the number of people that don't realize that they won't stay the same, and they're always going to go up. But when we talked about your property value going up, people say, hey, your house that's worth $250 4 years ago, the town has now decided that it's worth $300, and you go, well, my property tax went up. Why'd my insurance go up? Because if they say your house is worth more, your insurance company is automatically getting that information and going to say, oh, well, that means you're going to have to be insured for more. So we're going to charge you more, which is also why after an evaluation, you should have a visit with your insurance adjuster to make sure you are covered. As we talked about earlier in the show, we won't have to revisit all that. But the average bill in 2025 in North Carolina jumped $400. And you can use online estimators to push back on those tax hikes and file a complaint, or that you want a hearing on that. But my house, for personal example, we got slammed combined a 29% increase on taxes and insurance, and they send it to you in a letter from your whoever you get your mortgage from, and it's different looking. It says important mortgage payment information. And I opened it up and I said, well, I could buy a new truck on monthly payments or pay the new difference on my mortgage. And it was almost $400 a month my mortgage went up because of reevaluation and the property tax and insurance going up.
Yeah, no fun. I don't have anything good to say. Money racket all day long. And I understand, the taxes pay things that we enjoy in terms of conveniences in everyday life. But man, like nobody wants to pay them. I tell my children, just wait. Don't decide your political affiliation until you pay your own taxes and utilities and house payment and all the stuff that dad pays now. But hold tight. You're not going to like it any more than I did.
I have a relative whose daughter got a job, and a left-leaning relative. Their daughter got a job and got their first paycheck and saw the stuff was taken out. She immediately changed her affiliation. She was so mad because she had never knew what was going on. And she's like, oh my God, they took out for this and this and that. And like, welcome to life, welcome to taxes. And you ain't even, that's just your paycheck.
You just got here.
You ain't experienced nothing yet. I hope talking about these subjects maybe had you thinking as a listener, hey, what's going on with this? I didn't know I couldn't do that, or I need to get a permit to do this. And there's lots of stuff when you own a house that there's no rule book for, but that's why we tried to approach a few of them. We got more of this on the website, thecarolinacontractor.com. You can listen to this show, past shows. Also got a YouTube page up. Just search The Carolina Contractor Show. We're on Instagram, as Donnie was mentioning. You can find us on social media. And if you have a question or a comment or something, Ask the Contractor is a literal clickable button on our website, and that goes to Donnie. So if there's a question, or you have an idea for a show, or hey man, you said, I don't believe that's right, I think you're wrong on that. Hey, we take criticism too. You can go ahead and send it there. But we just want to thank you for listening, and all the new listeners that are coming in. The show's grown about 10-15% listenership and people following us, and we're still killing it in Australia. Over 3% of our listeners, man, Australian. So good day down there too.
Yeah, that's nice to include those folks. We appreciate it.
Yeah. So we thank you again for tuning in and checking out the show. And we hope to hear and see you next week on the Carolina Contractor Show.
Have an awesome day, everybody. Thanks.
Toodles.
Peace.